So I wanted to ask you first a little bit about your background. So
Sure.
you're of Mexican descent, I assume,
Yeah.
and you grew up in what part of the state of Ohio?
Yeah. So my name is Sophia Enriquez. I am from Batavia, Ohio, which is in Claremont County, which is the furthest west Appalachian County in Ohio. My mom is of Scots, Irish, Welsh background, and my dad is Mexican American. As far as I know from some research on his side of the family, we have ancestors that came from Durango, Mexico, and also like northern Mexico, Coahuila. So I grew up here in southern Ohio, Mexican American dad who grew up in Mississippi, actually.
Mississippi.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And how did you get into Mexican music?
So my dad's family are musicians. My great-grandfather, Nicolas, was a fiddler. So he played Mexican traditional fiddle, and when he migrated to the Mississippi Delta in the early 30s, he learned a lot of traditional Southern Appalachian tunes, country music. And so on my dad's side, my family is very musical, both in terms of traditional, like U.S. country music and folk songs, but also traditional Mexican music. So ranchera, corrido. And I also have learned several other styles of Mexican folk music, more so since I started my graduate studies.
And so you got into the music from the música jarocha once you were in school?
Yes, so that came out of the group that I perform with and collaborate with called the Lua Project in Charlottesville, Virginia. We play a blend of son jarocho, the music you're talking about from Veracruz, and country music, old time. We play some cumbia, and there's some Eastern European influence in there too. And those are my friends, Dave Brzozowski and Estella Knott, that's their project that I collaborate with. And so they were working with a maestro, Zenel Zeferino from Veracruz, when I first connected with them in 2017. And so that was my first introduction to Son Jarocho, and I had the opportunity to go to Veracruz shortly after, and I've just sort of been, piece by piece learning instead of learning.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed you had taken a trip to El Hato in the Sotavento region of Veracruz, and how did you discover that place?
Yeah, so El Hato is a small ranching community in southern Veracruz and is home to one of the leading families of Son Jarocho, the Utrera family. And I had connected with another colleague in musicology who studies música huasteca from the northern part of Veracruz, but also plays a lot of son jarocho. And so he said, Wendy and Tacho, they love traveling, they love sharing their music with other people, and they would love the opportunity to come to the States. And with my friend Alexandra Landeros, we got a grant from the North Carolina Arts Council to host a fandango in Durham and bring Wendy and Tacho from Veracruz. And I had actually already had plans to go and spend about a month in Veracruz to continue studying. And so I was able to actually meet them in person before we hosted our fandango. And so I got so they invited me to Tacho's home land, and so the El Hato is where Tacho grew up, and so it was really special. It's not a lot of Americanos make their way there, so it was really great.
And are there others in the family that play instruments as well?
In my family?
No, in their.
So they're entirely a family of musicians. So their son Miguel grew up playing and singing. Wendy Romero, she is from Puerto Veracruz, and so her introduction to son jarocho came a little bit later as a young woman. But she was still part of that like traditional music community, just not in the Sotavento region.
And have you played music from the Huasteca as well?
I have dabbled, but there's actually a trio Huasteco that lives on my street in Durham, and sometimes they rehearse on the weekends in their front yard, and so I like to go and listen and see what they're up to.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, talking about your position at Duke, do you teach academic classes as well? Music?
Yeah, so I'm an ethnomusicologist, and I teach courses that incorporate perspectives from ethnomusicology, anthropology, and I also teach. A majority of my classes are cross-listed in what we have at Duke called the Program for Latino Studies in the Global South, which has this idea of the Global South as this framework for us thinking about Latino communities globally, but also, we have this regional focus of the U.S. South. And so Duke has a really active undergraduate Latino population, and they're very organized and active. And so I teach to those students fairly often. So I teach a course called Latinx Music Cultures. I'm teaching a class right now about Selena. It's called Music, Media, and the Mexican-American Experience. So yeah, I teach courses in that vein, but I also do incorporate the interest in the regional studies, Southern Studies and Appalachian Studies. So I'm also teaching a class now, Music and Literature of the U.S. South.
Well, those sound like great classes.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And so I don't know much about the Latinx student community at Duke. Is it fairly substantial in terms of numbers?
Yeah, I think around 6 or 7% of the undergrad student body, and there's a large undergraduate Latinx student organization called Mi Gente, and they used to be very active in even in recruiting efforts, which now is the responsibility of the university. But they do a lot of cultural events and facilitate social events as well. And so I've been involved in collaborating with them on some levels, and also working on building relationships between the undergraduate Duke students, Latino students, and the local Latino community in Durham, which is also very sizable. And sometimes, we have these barriers, like our students come and they spend their 4 years at this institution, but they aren't necessarily integrated into the local community. And so that's something that I'm also passionate about doing.
And where do the students come from?
So far, I've noticed a pretty broad mix of students. Duke is a institution that is, I might hope I'm representing this appropriately, but that offers a full match financial aid. So if a student receives a financial aid offer, it's like a full offer, right? Mm-hmm. So we do have a lot of scholarship students, many of whom come from working class Latino families.
Are they from the region?
Both from the region and also from places you might expect, New York, LA, and actually in my Selena class, I have several Tejano students, Texas Mexican American students. So yeah, pretty broad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what kind of projects do you have in the works now? I'm assuming that
my work?
Yeah, you have to publish. And
yes. So I have my book, which is a expansion / revision of my dissertation project, Canciones de los Appalachians, which the name might change, but it's what I have for now. And so that book is forthcoming and incorporates a lot of what I talked about today, tracing the Son Jarocho tradition into the South and Appalachia, but also incorporating historical archival materials from the Farm Security Administration that shows early, immigrant communities in the early 20th century in Appalachia, which is not what we typically think about, right? When we think about Latino communities in this area, think about them as being more recently arrived, but there's much deeper history there. So kind of a blend of ethnographic work and archival work.
Mm-hmm. Sounds of great interest. And in terms of your playing, you have lots of outlets to play.
Yes, I do try to prioritize that. I think it's connected to everything else I'm trying to do. It informs my teaching, it informs my writing. So I play sometimes something here or there by myself, and then with the song Harocha as like a community music. I try to make sure I go to the flamenco. It's like soul food, and then I play with the group out of Charlottesville, Virginia, the Lua Project. So there's kind of different pieces there. Yeah.
Do you have time to practice?
Practice. Well, like I was at a jam last night, and so that maybe it's good practice. Yeah. Well,
I don't want to take more of your time. I thank you for.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the support and the questions.
You're super busy, and I have been through the paces as a non-assistant professor, knowing what you have to do to get ahead. And I think you're in a place of tremendous visibility. So I wish you great luck.
Yeah.
And well, maybe sometime we'll have to get you to come up to App State.
Yeah, I would love that. I know there's definitely. I mean, it's not that far. So
no, it's not that far.
Definitely collaborations that can happen. So yeah, thank you, Jim.